100,000 people will be granted the right to work in Britain even though they haven't been granted asylum. And they could be anybody. They could come from anywhere. They often may have arrived without documentation. We have no idea of their work history, of their criminality, of where they came from. And yet, soon, thanks to this backlog, they could be rocking up to a delivery door anywhere near you.
Well, of course, it creates perverse incentives. Law-abiding citizens, law-abiding migrants who follow the rules essentially are punished through higher taxes, increased costs on housing and public infrastructure. And yet those people who enter the UK in a sort of clandestine or illegal fashion are rewarded with subsidised housing. And after a year or so, they're entitled to work in the UK. This just increases the pull factor because essentially you can lead a complete life with disposable income, subsidised housing, but without following the rules.
That's precisely right. And one of these guys, I'll call him a guy, it is television, was complaining that he only gets £9 a week from the government. Now, that's obviously a tiny amount of money, but he also gets free hotels, free board, free lodging, free phones, free laptops, a free bike, his clothes are free, and now he will get the right to work in the UK. Now, to me, that feels desperately unfair. This feels like kind of short-circuiting the system. They're not even legally allowed to stay, and yet they're legally allowed to work. How on earth is this saying we're going to stop the boats, Mike?
Well, it isn't. There are some people who argue that asylum claimants should be able to work after 1 year, but you've got to look at the fiscal studies of the impact of migration, and non-EEA, that is the European Economic Area, migrants from those regions are actually a net drain on the taxpayer, and that applies mostly to legal migrants. So the vast majority of these people coming to the UK through clandestine means, or through the Channel, they're going to have lower human capital. They're not going to be a net fiscal benefit for the taxpayer. So ultimately, this is very unfair, and it sends a very strong signal out there that you can actually break the law. You can pay people traffickers sums of money. You don't have to claim asylum in a third safe country. You can make your way to the UK, and yet you will still have the rights and privileges of legal migrants and British citizens.